Over the weekend, U.S., Australian, and Philippines forces conducted a joint war game simulating the retaking of an island in the South China Sea. The retaking of an island in the South China Sea was simulated during a combined simulation over the weekend by U.S., Australian, and Philippine soldiers. After China raised the stakes in the South China Sea, there was a brazen signaling. The U.S. military services are emphasizing the need to confront and restrain Chinese aggression, which includes firing water cannons at a Philippine ship. While Vice Admiral Alberto Carlos, the head of the Philippine Western Command, which is in charge of overseeing the South China Sea, was in the Philippines for a meeting with the commander of the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet, the three nations' armed forces were conducting a joint exercise. "You have to push individuals," Vice Admiral Carl Thomas told Reuters, "especially if you're operating in a gray area. You need to push back when they keep pushing you while taking more and more from you. You need to keep moving and sailing." The 7th Fleet of the U.S. Navy, headquartered in Japan, is the largest of the forward-deployed fleets. It operates as many as 70 ships, 150 aircraft, and over 27,000 sailors. It covers an area of 124 million square kilometers from bases in Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. More than 2,000 Australian and Philippine defense personnel and U.S. Marines are participating in the war games that incorporate amphibious landing and air assault drills. Two Australian Navy vessels, HMAS Canberra and MAS Anzac, and the Philippines Navy are also participating in the exercise. The drills will occur in different training locations in the Northern Luzon Command and the Western Command from August 14-31. The war games involve troops arriving in amphibious assault vehicles by parachute and onboard U.S. Osprey aircraft to storm a beach. Two advanced Australian F-35 fighter jets provided close air support, and Australian warships secured the surrounding waters. Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles is observing the drills with Filipino President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Marles, who has pledged to start joint maritime patrols in the heavily contested South China Sea in a significant pushback to China. It is an important aspect of how we prepare for any eventualities, considering there have been so many events that attest to the volatility of the region, Filipino President Marcos said. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will visit the island nation in September with maritime issues, defense, and security on the agenda. The International Tribunal in The Hague declared the 9-dash line invalid and a violation of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. China, refusing to accept the ruling, continued militarizing the islands, and its militia continued to harass the Philippine vessels. While Manila has UNCLOS on its side, its military weakness in the face of a formidable foe has not gone unnoticed. That is why the Marcos administration, since taking office in June 2022, has been fortifying its defense and strategic ties with the US, Australia, Japan, and India, the Quad countries. During his U.S. visit in May, Marcos and U.S. President Joe Biden agreed to new guidelines on the country's 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. The U.S. reiterated that it would aid the Philippines in the event of an attack on it anywhere in the South China Sea. The guidelines also acknowledged the threats posed by gray zone tactics employed by China. In return, the Philippines agreed to add 4 more military bases that the U.S. could access. Sticking to its commitment, a U.S. Navy plane flew overhead as 2 Philippine boats breached a Chinese Coast Guard blockade to replenish food and other supplies to its forces guarding a contested shoal. While the Filipino government was dallying with the U.S., it was also strengthening its ties with Australia, which has commercial and strategic interests in the South China Sea. Australia and the Philippines in May elevated their relationship to a strategic partnership. After the water cannon incident, Australia, Japan, and the Philippines conducted joint patrolling in the South China Sea. The U.S. Navy could not join as planned. The Philippines has also signed an unprecedented memorandum of understanding with the Indian Coast Guard that will, besides other things, include sharing information in the Indo-Pacific. The Philippines is also modernizing its armed forces. It has placed an order for supersonic cruise missile BrahMos. It is also scouting for its first submarine and has shown interest in the Indian-made advanced light helicopter Mk3 and Indian warships.